welcome to the Flying Chariots the Rise podcast with your hosts, Dustin and Chrissy. And today we have a very exciting guest. His name is Tony Rathman. He is a paranormal investigator. He works in ITC technology, and he's also working on something called Staticom, which is a brand new way of speaking with the dead. So I'm very excited about this. Tony, do you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Absolutely. Been involved in paranormal investigation, ITC research for about 15 years now. The whole way this started was I didn't believe in any of this. My wife started watching paranormal shows when they first came out, and she'd always say to me, "Come over here, you're gonna love this. You got to see this." I'd sit for about 2 minutes and I'd be like, "This is BS." I'm like, "This is for entertainment only. None of this is real." And I'd walk away. Well, then in 2010, she tricked me on Valentine's Day and she said, "I want to do something different." I said, "Okay, what do you want to do?" She goes, "I want to go ghost hunting." And I was just like, "Are you kidding me?" But I had two choices. I could take her or have her mad at me until next Valentine's Day. I didn't want that. So I did a little research, found a hotel that had a reputation for being haunted, booked it for the weekend for her, and thought, I'm done. And I'm like, wait, these people are using equipment. What are they using? So I went out, I bought a night vision camera, EMF meter, and digital recorder. We went for the weekend. I played along. I asked questions. I took photographs. She had a great time. That was all I cared about. But when she got home and she started going through the pictures and she's like, "What's this weird light formation that wasn't there when we took it?" Or "What's this shadowy looking figure? Where did that come from?" I couldn't explain it. I tried to debunk it for like a month, couldn't do it. But then she got to the audio and she was calling me over every 2 or 3 minutes. "Whose voice is this?" It was 3 a.m. in the morning. We were in the basement of the hotel. There were only 2 other guests in the 7-story hotel. It couldn't have been them. Plus, they weren't in the basement at 3 a.m. Well, this absolutely fascinated me because these voices were coming out of apparently nowhere and literally answering our questions that we were asking with timing and relevance. So I said, let's go back. Maybe there was a vent where voices were coming through. Maybe there was a window that a street light was coming through, making the weird appearances in the photographs. So we went back. There wasn't. There wasn't a window. There wasn't any light shining through. There was no vents that sound was coming through. And we ended up coming home with even more voices. This is what started our fascination with disembodied communication. We spread out investigating all over Arizona, then did California, Nevada, New Mexico, Colorado. Now we've been all over the country from West Coast to East Coast, hundreds of locations we've investigated. And then we began investigating out of the country in Japan, the Philippines, and just some crazy locations and captures. But we've moved from EVP to what's called ITC, or instrumental transcommunication, which is a term that was coined by Ernst Sinkowski. And the difference between EVP and ITC is EVP is considered record and review, and ITC was meant to deliver two-way communication. So as we began, the years going by, we built spirit boxes for 12 years. I think I have 14 of them sitting around the house, one better than the next. But the one thing we could never get was longer communication until 2 former partners of ours brought back a method called direct radio voice, developed by Friedrich Jurgensen, passed on to Konstantin Radeve, and then most well-known used by a gentleman named Marcello Bacci. And he would literally call in people that were grieving from lost children or family members, and he would literally get answers to the questions either he asked or they asked. And Marcello Bacci was the only one ever tested in a lab by scientists, and they could not debunk what was occurring. So doing the research from ITC pioneers, that's where we began. It still used a radio, but voices were coming through. So we redeveloped it. We added 21st century technology advancements, and we were able to get speech, answers to questions. And I can go through how it evolved from DRV to Staticom 2.0, and now today 3.0.
Wow. Holy cow, dude.
Yeah, I myself, obviously, I love the ghost box. I do. But as you've said, Tony, the responses are so short. And I always wondered, how is the spirit adequately able to answer my questions in this short little spurt? And then I watched some of your YouTube stuff, and I was blown away by the amount of conversation that is actually happening between spirits. I mean, that's, I think, part of the reason why I'm getting such strange responses sometimes on the ghost box is because the spirits are actually communicating with each other.
Right. We can turn Staticom on. We don't even have to say anything. We can just listen. It's like a spiritual eavesdrop to another dimension. And some of the conversations, just crazy stuff. But it really gives you a reality check of what the afterlife is like. And it's fascinating on so many different levels.
Wow. Yeah, it kind of seems like it's just, especially if the ghosts are communicating with each other, it seems just like it's just another world that they kind of live amongst us in this frequency that we just can't see.
Correct.
And
Yeah, you can see like Tony will say, "Hey, can you guys quiet down? There's way too much chatter." And then they quiet down a little, but it's like a room full of people. It's
Sure.
insane.
Right.
You can hear it.
You know, we always try, and we're still trying to come up, because there's so many variables we don't know. But how are they interacting? Are they all together? Are they fighting to speak? And at times it's definitely seemed that way. But it's curious. One of the things, as the information started to come in, as we started to get proof, we literally had to take a step back and reevaluate what we believed reality to be, both here on Earth for us and for what we believed was occurring in the afterlife. Do we have all those answers today? No, but we've got a much better picture. And, we had to realign our own views from both religious aspects and from scientific aspects, because one of the things we wanted to achieve when designing this was not to conflict with either, and not to have an explanation based on science that jumped all over the place going, well, if this happens, they just know how to do that. Or, we wanted a straight line from this is how we think it's occurring, and this is how we believe the voices are coming in, and these are the answers that we're getting.
And I love that you were a skeptic. You're coming across the situation in such a logical, scientific based way. And I just have so much respect for it, because I think you're going to garner the respect of other skeptics. And
sure.
that helps me a lot as a paranormal investigator.
Well, thank you. I greatly appreciate that. It has not been an easy road, and breaking the mindset of scientists using physicalism or materialistic science is a real challenge. The advantage I had was my father was a physics professor. So some of the questions as I've been doing this came from him. He's like, okay, how does this happen? How do you, and so that helped. And so we're continually trying to get science to take a look at this, because, am I 100% sure? No, but I'd say 99.9. And if a scientist could pull it apart and show that something else is happening, or we are assuming that it's occurring in a way that it's not, we want to know that. This wasn't built to sell. It wasn't built to make money off of. It was built for the research. So we've been challenging scientific organizations to come forward, take a look, and see what it can do.
Wow. That'd be so cool if like your machine even went further, or if it is already so advanced where maybe those are ET voices that you're hearing. Actually, having these conversations with you. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that question comes up a lot.
Because we are interdimensional beings too.
Right. One of the questions we get is, how do you know who you're speaking to? Sure. The fact of the matter is we don't. We can get information, we can get data from what they give us, and then research that. But the fact of the matter is, we don't really know. And we've asked, are we speaking to spirits? Are we speaking to extraterrestrials? Are we speaking to multidimensional?
Yeah.
9.8 times out of 10, they will respond spirit or consciousness.
Okay. Wow.
Which pretty much tells us that that's what it is. But
Sure.
does that mean that extraterrestrials couldn't use it? No. I mean, anybody who claims to have been abducted says, well, they were speaking to me, but their mouth wasn't moving, because it's some sort of transmission of energy of the mind.
Right. And the frequency too. Again, we can
Absolutely
only see at a certain frequency. So like there's, I don't know, there's a chart of different levels of what frequencies, like the X-rays and all that shit. But yeah, again, like it makes you really wonder what's beyond what we can't see. You know what I'm saying?
But and that's a great point. You know, people always say to us, you know, what's the barrier between the living and the afterlife? That barrier is the human body.
Mhm.
We literally were put into a body that can only see visible light. And there
Mhm.
are spectrums on both sides, ultraviolet, night vision,
Yeah.
spectrums that we can't see. Our
Yeah.
hearing is the same. We can hear 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. There are frequencies above and below that. So the human body was literally designed, we believe, to keep us focused on the here and now rather than be distracted by everything else that's going around us, which is spirits communicating constantly. They are around us more than you have any idea. And it's like radio waves. Radio waves are going by
Yes.
your ears right now. Can you hear
And going
them?
out to
No.
space too, you know,
Right.
for thousands and
Exactly.
hundreds
There are
of years.
so many signals, but the human body can interpret them. So, like radio signal, you need the electronic device of a radio to take that signal, interpret it to the human senses where we can hear it and understand it. And that's how Staticom functions.
Damn. Yeah, you know your shit, bro.
There you go. Now,
Yeah, dude.
Staticom is different from the Ghost Box, right? Because I know you mentioned the Ghost Box. It uses like the radio and it scans. How does the Staticom differ from the Ghost Box? Because you're getting just full answers, very thorough answers, and not just that, but the answers you're getting are direct, clear responses to the questions you're asking.
That's an
Relevant.
excellent question. The difference is that when anyone hears the word ITC in the US, they automatically think of a spirit box. There are other methods, which is why we went back and dug up direct radio voice. But the difference is that when Frank Sumption developed the Frank's box, which is what the spirit box is, where it came from, his theory was that by scanning radio stations, you'll hear little bits and pieces of each station as it flies through, either scanning forward or reverse. His theory was that spirits would be able to take those bits of audio and rearrange them into their own sentences. Now, the problem with that from a scientific perspective is that every bit of fragment of audio would need to be accessible to them at the moment they need it. Then they would need to rearrange that audio at the speed of light and then reframe it into whatever it is they're trying to say. So that's how a spirit box supposedly works. But you get very short answers from a spirit box. Plus, the white noise is hard to distinguish what they're saying.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, you're throwing radio audio bits into it, confusing it even more. Well, what our research showed through multiple different tests was that the radio or RF signal was not needed at all. They were clearly using strictly white noise. So our former partners did a test 30 feet underground in a zinc mine where everybody that had spirit boxes got nothing because there was no radio signal. It can't penetrate the earth that far. They were using direct radio voice, which still used a radio, but sat on a vacant frequency of just static. They still got voices. So that was test one. Then I used a sleep machine that had a white noise setting. I asked a question, the answer came through. Not only did I get the answer, but the sleep machine wasn't live white noise. It was a 30-second recording of it, and their answer embedded on micro card in the white noise machine. So every time I played it after that, their response replayed every 30 seconds. So I said, wait a minute, it's white noise. So we went out, we taped fans, not microwaves, fans, air conditioners. I taped mics to my car and drove around town, used that white noise to see if voices could be pulled. It could, but the problem was that the white noise wasn't um, standard frequency or level. It would vary up and down if a car went by, which made it really difficult. So then we went out and bought a white noise generator. White noise generator electronically creates the white noise sound by combining every sound the human ear can hear, 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, plays them all at once, plays it at the exact same level or a spectral frequency of 1. And so we hooked that up, filtered it, and the voices came flying out.
Wow.
So white noise has no vocal data. There is no words, no sentences, not even syllables. It does not use word banks. There is no AI involved. There is no microphone. It is a closed circuit of white noise into the filtration. And from the filtration, out comes the voices.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
That is amazing.
Every paranormal investigator, if this comes out, is going to want to get their paws on this.
Yeah, and that's already been occurring. And you know, we want them to have it because we want them to be able to get the same results we are. But we also, top priority is to get science to take a look, because this should not be occurring.
Sure. Wow.
Possibly even law. Now, I saw you posted something about 24 hours ago, and condolences to your wife who lost a good friend, right, from her childhood.
Correct.
Now, you were, of course, going back and forth. Should we post this? Should we not? Because it's so soon. But I'm so glad you posted it. I was blown away.
Thank you.
So, and it's amazing. I mean, so this man, he was murdered, they believe, right?
Yeah, Monday. He was literally shot point blank range. There was a CC video of it. We did see it. He was, well, I don't want to go too much into detail about him, but yeah, that's what occurred. And I had just done the final upgrade to 3.0 that evening when Cherie came up to me and said, "Oh my gosh, our friend got shot. He's dead." And there was a little sentence that came out saying his name. And I said, "Cherie, ask questions." And sure enough, answer after answer after answer came in. And most people won't be able to recognize it, but everything that was said, because we knew him so well, was 100% accurate. And there's statements in there that were directly to Cherie or to what happened, even down to first and last name of who did it.
Damn.
It's amazing. You have to show the video, Dustin. It brought to question, is this something that law enforcement can use?
Sure.
Well,
that was why we released it, because we thought, okay, nothing has been released yet. No other news outside of the fact that he was shot and murdered. We had all these answers and we thought, let's just hold on to it. And then we thought, you know what? We'll never be able to prove that we released it prior if we don't put it out there. So we did. Now we wait, because one of the purposes we want to use this for going forward is for cold cases. If law enforcement is at a complete dead end and don't know which direction to go, if any of that information on there is true, then we know we have something that could be used for so many different things.
Sure.
Revolutionary, if you think about the impact this could have.
Yeah, I was even thinking even further than that, because the military today still uses remote viewing with psychics just to get an upper hand of enemies and stuff like that.
Correct.
So again, you can use this in the same tactical way. If one of our spies got killed over there. You know what I'm saying? In Russia, they're
Well,
like, oh, this shit
governments
happened to me, and they
definitely.
got the codes to the, the nuclear shit, and they're about to pop. You know what I'm saying?
Well, exactly. And, over the years of research, we know that they will not ever give us information about the future. But anything that has occurred, they don't seem to have a problem answering. And out of all the tests we've done where we've gotten an answer that we didn't know and we're able to research it, 94, 95% is 100% correct.
Sure. And who knows? The spirit might not know what the future is. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Correct.
It's just they
That
could be just again if they're wandering around here on Earth for all eternity. It's just like, well, this is it. You know, and everybody's getting
that's a very good
along.
point.
You know, it seems like again interaction with other spirits again makes it seem like this is another world that we're going to step into, and maybe like not realize that we are dead or. Again, maybe we're all happy in a sense. No one has the stress and things that a human actually goes through all the damn time. Like we have to pay the damn bills, take care of kids, relationships, and marriages, and
that's a great point. The one thing that bothers me is I asked them if they have jobs, and they said yes. I was
No way.
whoa, damn, that is hell.
No.
that exactly. I'm like, oh no, come on.
We're guardian angels over here.
I have to say, Tony, watching those videos on your YouTube has opened my mind so much because I had no idea that spirits spoke with each other like that. And it was so clear from your videos that they're talking to each other all the time.
Yeah, that's actually nice to clarify too, because I actually
Yeah.
think about ghosts. They're all in their own zone, and they don't even,
Mhm.
recognize each other or even like see each other. They're just kind of doing their own thing. There's
Yeah,
actually a
no,
TV.
there's very much
Yeah,
interaction.
there's a TV show. I think it was on Showtimes. Uh, the concept was like this couple. They got married and they both died separately in some freak accidents, and they end up going back to their old house and just kind of reliving their life and like nothing happened. But there's all these other people who died throughout the past. They kind of just interact with each other and they all explain how they died and got here and shit. And it's just like, whoa, that's a crazy, awesome concept.
Yeah,
The
the
name of
more
the
you
show.
dive into it, the more your mind just spins. For every answer we get, there's 100 more questions behind it that we want to know. So it's never ending. And it involves so many things. It involves the ideas of, definitely consciousness surviving death. Because, if they truly, if it didn't exist, there would be no answers received. So we know they exist. But then it can go down to everything to, what parts of, religion are accurate, where's the differences. People ask us, well, did you ask how the pyramids were built, or did Atlantis exist? I mean, I could literally spend the rest of my life just asking questions. But in order to keep the research going and the evolution of it evolving, would I love to sit down for the next 10 years and ask every question under the book? I would.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, no, you can't really do that. That's not realistic. But no, again, if you are, again, like the technology is just getting better and better, and you're learning more techniques of even getting more clearer sounds or even more clearer answers than you are getting now. It's just astonishing that you are getting like full sentences back and the the relevancy of the
Oh, it's
conversation.
it's completely
That's
relevant. Like
yeah.
you would in one of the videos you asked about this woman's dress color, and they said green, and it was a green dress, and you asked them to repeat a very strange phrase, and they repeated it. It
we
Wow.
repeated
pick
the phrase. It's
we
crazy.
pick strange phrases on purpose,
Yes.
um, because it gives proof that they heard me, b
Yes.
intelligently understood what I was asking, and then it's just a matter of timing for it to see how quickly it shows up. And most of the time, it's pretty darn close to instantly. And we're like, okay. I mean, I'll pick strange words like pineapple, elephant,
Right.
and
Hmm.
sure enough,
Exactly. It,
yeah.
it's a very strange phrase. There's no chance that that phrase would by chance be repeated. Like I worry about that with the ovulus and that type of thing. Like, is this just a chance? With
Without a doubt.
answers you are getting, there's no chance. I mean, that's an intelligent response. And then, so I was blown away by that. And then just the intelligent response is where you'll verify how many spirits are there? 10. Can you repeat that? 10.
Right.
And you verify and you're getting the same responses still. So that blew my mind. Uh, and you're asking some very philosophical questions as well. You asked about consciousness, and I believe they said there was they said something about an electrical current, I believe, which is very interesting to me because, most of the scientists have said everything is like vibration and frequency and energy. And the spirit spoke of an electric field. Well, I always thought of it as uh, our electromagnetic fields are what makes are basically our spirits. And that's why when we work with our phones and our phones die so quickly and our batteries die so quickly when we're around the spirits because they're
Mhm.
draining the energy. And I thought that was a really interesting response from the spirit.
Thank you. Nikola Tesla said back in the 40s or 50s, if you want to understand the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration.
The rule of
Excellent
three.
point. Energy, frequency, and vibration holds our furniture together. It literally is the be all end all of the way things are put together, the way that we experiencing them. Now, when we got rid of the radio and added the white noise generator, guess what white noise is? Energy, frequency, and vibration. What do we believe spirits are if they lost the human body or the container? They are also now energy, frequency, and vibration. And then just to spin off that, people always say to us, how are they talking? They don't have vocal cords. My answer is very simple. They don't need vocal cords. If you string on or plug a string on a guitar, the energy comes from your thumb, the string vibrates, produces a frequency sound. And so there's no vocal cords. And then the next thing I say to them, well, does your radio have vocal cords? Well, no. What are you hearing? Speech, energy, frequency, and vibration. All
so
that's
cool.
Boils
needed to
down
produce.
to
Yeah, and then the fact that you said you use a fan or you make your own white noise, it kind of made me think. You think whale calls would be like another way of getting a frequency and getting something through? You know what I'm saying? Because that's all like vibration and sound.
Correct.
I thought that'd
Is
be
it
interesting.
possible? I mean, I know people who do all sorts of EVP work with all sorts of background sounds to
Uh,
elevate the vocals, but we use white noise just because it's every sound the human ear can hear. And we believe
sure.
what happens is, and Staticom does this all live. It's not like EVP where you record, you bring it home, you plug it into your computer, you're no
Right.
longer
Right.
there to carry on the conversation, but then you put it in your computer, you may amplify it, you may try to clean it up, you may try to speed it up or get Staticom does that all live in the moment, at the moment,
Sure.
which allows for the two-way communication.
Sure. No, I was just thinking outside the box. If like there's other like experiments that you want to get with frequencies, and no, I just thought it'd be cool.
No,
A whale
I
call.
completely agree. I completely agree. And there is so many layers that this can shed light on and put us down a path of just completely new understanding of everything.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask you too, and when they talk back, what is it the voice sound like? Is it like a radio, like a robot voice, or is it like a AI generated male voice or a woman's voice? Because it'd be really cool too if like your box or your machine can differentiate if it's a male or female type of consciousness.
Absolutely can. Every voice is different. There are different dialects. You can
Oh,
hear
cool.
European accent in it. You can
Oh,
hear
snap.
everything.
Really? That's even more amazing, bro. Holy shit. You got I'm pretty sure you're feeling people's envy from afar. Shit.
Yeah, we had the voices analyzed by audio engineers,
Mm.
and they were blown away.
Mm.
They said this mimics human speech down to consonant, vowels, diphthongs, speech patterns, pauses, levels of excitement. That is absolutely impossible from randomness. So there is
Wow.
nothing random about this. It is intelligent, and it is answers come in with timing and relevance to the questions asked.
That is amazing. Yeah, it's like
Blows
that
my
guy, that
mind.
ghost got the speech impediment. He's
It
stuttering.
really is. You can hear that there's differences in the voices. Oh, Tony, when you spoke with the man who is now deceased, who was your wife's friend, did that voice sound like his? You might not know, no, might not have known him,
No,
but
I do know.
oh, you
And
did know him?
the
Okay.
only voice that sounded similar was when he told my wife, well, I will always love you. That
Oh,
one did. But there was a
okay.
statement in there from another voice that said, he's not up yet.
Right.
And we found that very interesting because, like I said, this was only days ago. Is
Mhm.
there a transition for the spirit
Oh,
to adjust to the new environment by saying, and we've heard them say, oh, they're sleeping, and then we started thinking, well, is sleeping reincarnation? Are they back here? But the fact that we heard the voice say, he's not up yet, that literally clicked a light bulb for us and said, wait, he's not speaking. But the one voice that said to my wife, we're like, yeah, that's him.
that's very interesting because I have questioned whether there is a phase of transition. Often after someone dies, I can feel their energy very heavy in the air for days to weeks. And sometimes I feel them leave. You grow sensitive to this sometimes after you've been with spirits. But sometimes I can
Right.
feel them leave even at their funeral or at their service after they've kind of made peace. So I think there is some transition where they do stick around for a little bit, some of them.
Well, it's possible. I mean, they're not bound to time and space like we are. Time and space is a man-made construct. It doesn't exist in their reality. They can communicate from anywhere. People always say, "Well, wait a minute, you're talking to disembodied spirit in your house. Isn't your house full of aren't objects moving around all over the place?" No. Why? Because they don't need to actually be here to communicate. If I was to go over to a neighbor's house and sit down, have a cup of coffee, and talk for an hour and then leave, could they detect body heat from me sitting in the chair? Yeah, they could. But if we did that over the internet, there'd be no sign I was there because I wasn't there. And we believe that's the same reason when we speak to them why there's no residual energy or effects that happen.
That's
Wow.
cool. We should just have that machine next to our friend Kai. That's a physical psychic medium. He's known
I
around
see.
Europe and around the world for doing demonstrations of ectoplasm and straight up pouring out of his mouth and
Yeah, you had him
fun.
on the last show, I think.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, he was
Yeah.
a very interesting fellow.
Yeah. So I can imagine because again, he's harnessing spirits. So I can imagine what kind of spirits are coming in through him
Well,
and what they're
we've
talking about.
actually done work with psychics and mediums with Staticom. And
Really?
the
Mm.
amount of information that can match or get expanded upon between what the psychic might bring in and say, well, I'm getting this or that, and then Staticom will spit out some additional information. Like, for instance, if the psychic said, well, there was a gentleman, he was in his 60s, 70s, he passed away, and then Staticom will say heart attack, and then they'll be like, yeah. So when there's a connection, and if the person doing it truly has the abilities they say they do, the connection can be just expanded upon. But we've also had some where Staticom will say they have no abilities.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's so
That's
cool.
funny. But yeah, Kai is actually he proves himself pretty worthy again. Like there's no trickery, and there's actually a lot of
Right.
people around him, actually people holding his hands and feet to make sure he's not moving anywhere. Yeah, and
Right.
he's levit. And again, he's explained it to us. It's not really him harnessing this power. It's all the energy of the people in the seance that gives him the power. And sometimes some of the nights would be powerful and some won't be as powerful because the people are not putting that full energy into the seance. Right. Again, I thought that was very intriguing to know, you know.
I completely agree. It is definitely a combination of, the energy gets raised by the people in the group. We know that when we're doing live demonstrations, the first, 15, 20 minutes may not go as well as it goes later, because the people
Sure.
that stay the longest are the most interested. They're the most open. They're the most willing to be receptive to what's coming through. Because the people in the beginning, they're talking to each other, they're not paying attention, they're eating a
Right.
bag of Cheetos.
Yeah.
But as that group thins and becomes more focused, we will get more and more responses, better responses. So I agree. It's a
That's awesome.
combination between who's there, the energy that's there, and the equipment being used. And in the medium's case, the medium is the equipment, which is what I like about Staticom. I'm not having a third person relate what they believe they're getting. I'll
That's
hear it
cool.
Yeah.
directly.
That's really
I was
cool.
just gonna say it almost puts mediums out of business. I mean,
Yeah, a
it's
little
a
bit.
direct communication with your loved one. Boom, you know?
Well, that's why you got to be a physical psychic medium. You got to step up your game. Like, okay, let me
Yeah,
pour
right.
ectoplasm out my
Oh.
nose and mouth.
Yeah, there's some truth to that, but we believe that mediums get that information from the exact same way that Staticom does. And like I said,
Yes.
when I was talking about having to rethink about what we believed reality to be, and without conflicting with religion of any kind or science, we believe that there's a universal consciousness of which we are all part of. That universal consciousness exists out in another dimension. When we are down here alive, we are a piece of that universal consciousness. So even when we're living our individual lives, experiencing everything through mentation, because life is nothing but mentation, and our digital dashboard of senses. But all that information can be transferred back and forth, which is how Staticom gets the answers. And we also believe on certain individuals, they're porous enough to pull that information from universal consciousness into themselves to get what they're feeling, sensing, and experiencing.
That's
Well,
fascinating.
again, that is well said. And
That is
like,
very well said.
yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
it's just like Earth is the Disneyland of the galaxy. So straight up, there's just so much crazy shit happening here. It's unbelievable.
That's true.
Tony, so I noticed that the spirits, they call you by name. They say Rathman, Rathman, and you seem to have developed a relationship with a lot of the spirits that you speak to. And I don't know if you speak to particular ones regularly, but do you
We
feel like
do.
you're starting to develop some sort of a relationship with them? Um, do you
That's a great
feel,
point.
yeah,
And I'm just going to back up a second to Marcello Bacci when he was tested in the lab. They pulled his vacuum tubes out of his radio one by one. It probably had three. Took the first one out and said, okay, let's see if you can still get voices. They could. He could. He pulled the second one. Bocce still got voices. Then he said, okay, if I pull the third one and you still get voices, I'll eat that. So he pulled the third one. Voices still came through. And then
Oh
Bocce said, don't
no.
eat that. That's glass. But the point is that even dismantling the mechanics of the radio, he was still able to get voices. The only thing they could remove to get the voices to stop was Marcello himself. So there is a connection between the operator and the equipment. So what you're saying, I completely agree. It is based on them trusting you, feeling confident that they're not going to freak you out by answering, and then building that, which we've built over 15 years. But that plays a critical role.
Dang.
Very interesting
No,
because I noticed,
that
yeah,
makes
on my
sense.
paranormal investigations, Sometimes I'll go to a place and it's dead silent. I'm not getting much. If I start going back to the same place, I start developing a relationship with those spirits and they talk to me a little bit more. Maybe they say my name. Maybe they open up and almost like a relationship with any person.
Exactly. And they have all their memories, they have all their free will, their personality. So you're absolutely right. It is literally no different. It is, and sometimes you get ones that are unhappy or cranky. It's like if you
Yeah.
walked out on a busy street and just randomly picked people walking by and said, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" You're going to get ones that said, "Sure, what do you want to know?" And you're going to get ones that quit bugging me. I don't have time for this. So it's very similar.
Chrissy never gets a no answer.
Yeah.
I got all
Of
kinds
course
of
I got
weird
time for
answers
you.
on
What's
there.
up? What the fuck?
The craziest thing is that, watching Tony's YouTube and the more I learn about Staticom, it's making so much make sense to me. It's putting so much into light that was in the darkness now. I
Yeah,
feel like
same
I'm
here.
understanding so much more about life already.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
I'm absolutely honored to hear that. That was the point of what we were doing. And the other point was that, EVP's been around a long time since single wire recorders were invented. And ITC has been around a while now. But science has two complaints. Either A, from ITC, you're picking up stray radio waves because you're using a radio. And then the other complaint they would always throw out is you think you're hearing words, but that's warbles and artifacts of sound. Your brain's trying to pattern recognize
What
something
they
that
were
it
saying.
knows, and it's making you think you're hearing that.
Hmm.
We wanted to make sure we had no radio in it, which was removed. And we wanted to make sure we can get the clearest audio possible so that those two low hanging fruits are removed from the equation.
So much respect for
straight
this,
up.
Tony,
Thank
Yeah.
because
you.
I love EVPs. I am an EVP obsessed person. Now, I love that you went in as a skeptic and you said, "Hey, there's clearly something talking to me here," as a skeptic. And you said, "I need to find out more and I need to prove it." And you have proven it, and I'm so excited about this. I'm so
Thank you.
excited.
I didn't expect it to take 15 years. And,
Yeah.
my wife will say to me, "Hey, are we ever going to go out, or are you just going to sit there and play with that thing, till?" And I said, "Well, I'm never going to put this down. You started this." But I said, "Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll stop now. Let's go out." But I never expected this. And the more I dug, the deeper I went, the more the answers just kept coming in. And I remember saying, after 6 months of using the SB7, Sheree, there are voices here. They are answering like 90% of our questions, but you can't hear it. Let's fix that.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. It's fucking awesome. No, I was gonna say, damn, what was my next question? No, seriously, like you're like the new Egon of today. Seriously, like, because again, he's the kind of the Ghostbuster that was kind of skeptic in the beginning,
Yes.
and then he got his socks blown off in the library, and he saw that ghost. He's like, all right, we're
But
down. But he was the one
it's
that's
so
got the
important for the
technology,
yeah,
you
it's
know,
so important
the drive, right?
for the skeptic to try to prove things wrong and
Sure,
then to get more involved scientifically trying to
sure,
debunk. I think it's important.
it
Debunking is
is.
so important.
Sure,
It absolutely is. So is skepticism. So is a
Yes.
level of security, meaning that, like I said, we don't know who we're talking to. Is there a dark side out there? I don't want to use the word demonic, but is there a dark side? Absolutely, there is. In life, you've got light and dark. You've got hot and cold. You've got, wet and dry. One literally defines the other by definition. And so, if there are angels, are there demons? Probably. That is how everything is balanced, by that order of of understanding. So yeah, so a sense of protecting yourself is also important. Now, it doesn't happen like it does on TV and in the movies. We've been doing this 15 years. We've had some minor, well, not minor. One of them was we had to have the house exercise, but
No big deal.
would I literally have called
Casual.
it demonic? Probably not, but it was vicious, no doubt
Yeah.
about it.
I was gonna ask you, Tony. I was gonna ask you, Tony, too, before we head up. But, I was thinking too, would you ever want to travel to different countries that speak different languages and see if it was coming through with different, dialects? Like, because we're here in America, you probably hear a mix of different accents and stuff like that. Even if they were from a different country, they still have that maybe accent. Because it's funny that you're hearing different tones and different accents and different male, female. That's where it's at. But I was wondering if you're curious enough to go maybe to Germany, where they just and your box would be like speaking Hitler shit.
Well, we absolutely plan to do that. We're going to take it to the Philippines.
Oh, cool. Yes.
Cool.
That is
last
awesome,
time we
dude.
were there, we did not have Staticom. Well, Staticom didn't exist last time we were there, but
Okay.
we did EVP.
Oh.
And in a place called the Diplomat Hotel, which just has tragic history. It was a nun and monk retreat way up in the mountains, and World War II, General Yamashita came in and he beheaded them all and took it over as a military. Well, we had to get signed permission from the mayor, but we got it. He let us in to spend the night alone. The security guard wouldn't even. He let us through the gate and he looked at the paper and he goes, "Okay, go ahead. That's as close as I'm getting." He only took
ran
like
full
three
speed.
steps. It was 300 yards away. But we got EVPs in English, Tagalog, which is the natural language of the Philippines, Japanese, because you had American soldiers, you had Japanese soldiers, and then we got some in Latin. Well, the Latin would have been the monks.
Oh,
because that's what they would have spoke. Latin was the only one we couldn't understand. We had it translated. They told us exactly what was being said. But back to Staticom, we do public events, and this gentleman came up and he said, "Can I ask a question?" I said, "Yeah, go ahead." But he asked his question in his Native American language. So we didn't even know what he asked. So we just sat back and listened and waited. And then I saw his eyes kind of get wide and his jaw drop. I said, "Did you get your answer?" He said, "Not only did I get my answer, but I got it in my Native American language."
Wow. Hell yeah. That's where it's at, bro. That's when you're going to make money. So here, we kind of talked this about in the beginning before we started. I was going to ask you, did you start to get this patent in?
Yeah, I haven't. And the reason, like I said, the gentleman on the phone is like, "Did you patent this?" I said, "No." And he goes, "Why not?" He said, "Well, if I patent it, I have to spell out every piece of how it's put together, and patents are public information." I said, "You could just go look it up and build it yourself."
Oh,
and
sure.
He goes,
yeah, you can't do that.
"Good point."
Yep.
So it's not a matter that we're trying not to share it. It's just that we want to be able to get through the research before we release it. And patenting it, we want everybody to experience this. We want everybody. So there's really no reason to patent it. Just because.
Sure. No, that makes sense.
It's not something you want to hide, but we also, like, I don't know if you have clips that I sent you or even if they can be played, but there's a clip where they tell me, "Be careful. You've done it. You've made this happen. Be careful." Well, that be careful is because this in the wrong hands could be very dangerous.
Oh, yeah. Or just people just trying to take your ideas. So, and
yeah,
steal it.
That's,
you know what I'm
too,
saying?
but like I said, this is
put
not
in
a
a safe
control
somewhere.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. And how big is this thing, if you mind me asking?
Well,
we just condensed it. It fits into a case about this big, including screens, monitors, because about 2 months ago, we said, "Okay, let's make this thing portable." And
cool. Right. That's so dope.
Tony, I just want to say, I'm blown away. And this is so revolutionary, not just for paranormal investigators, but for anyone who misses their loved one and wants
Oh
to
yeah.
the others.
Mm,
The whole portion of somebody being able to get some grief relief out of everything that we've done is probably the most rewarding to us of anything. And we've had it happen many times. We were doing a live presentation. A woman and her daughter were there. Uh, the mother had lost her son about a year ago. She said, "Can I ask a question?" We said, "Go ahead." She said, "We had a code phrase when he was in hospice. Can I ask if he can repeat it for me?" We said, "Yeah, go ahead." So she asked the question. Sure enough, male voice comes through, says a phrase. Now, we didn't know what the phrase was, but she just broke down in tears. She said, "That's him." And then she said one more question. She said, "What was your dog's name?" And the dog's name came through. And again, just,
whoa.
but to have somebody realize that they are gone from here and now, but not gone, you will run into them again. We believe consciousness survives forever. And there is no death, as science believes that when the brain and body dies, consciousness dies. Consciousness is a separate entity and it lives on. And there's so many things that point that out too. It, and I don't know how these are never looked at, but like, let's say you had to drive 300 miles and you had 1 gallon of gas in your car. What do? You put more gas in, right? And your car runs. Okay, so if the human body works off of energy from eating, if I'm tired, why can't I eat a big meal and be all fueled up again? Well, the reason being is because there's another source that needs to be refueled through sleep, and we believe that is consciousness.
Yeah.
Oh.
The cousin of death.
Amazing how many answers to life I have gotten so far just from watching your footage and your content, Tony. It's
Well,
amazing.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. We want to be able to open up thinking, understanding. Do we know that we're 100% correct? No, not 100. And like I said, we encourage science to take a look at it, evaluate it, pull it apart. If you can show us something that we missed, we want to know. But there's so many levels. Like, if spirits are communicating with energy, frequency, and vibration from anywhere in the universe, and that answer can come to us literally in seconds of me asking, without me even transmitting my voice through a mic or any sort of RF signal, I'm speaking as I'm speaking now without the mic, and I'm getting a response. How is that energy and information being transmitted? Think of what that could change with internet and internet speeds. And
Oh,
so
sure.
the information and the layers just keep going.
Yeah. It's like, who needs Wikipedia? And we can ask my great great
Right.
great 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 grandfather.
Right? Not just
On
that,
this
but
thing.
then even now we're talking about law enforcement getting
Yeah.
involved. And if we're
The government.
verifying
Yeah.
information now, this has so many uses.
It does. It really does. And we can't even begin to draw a line of where we think that ends, because we don't know. And until we continue to test, the only walls we hit is asking questions about future. Like,
Sure.
we've asked the winning Powerball numbers hundreds of times. They don't give them. Now, was Dustin right? Do they not know them? Don't know. But we believe that there's something, and we use the term universal laws. It's an understanding from universal consciousness to individual consciousness as us as humans, that we are here for a reason. We are here to learn, to grow, and to evolve our separate consciousness from universal, which will return and take that information and understanding of the life we live back. If they were to give me the winning Powerball numbers, I'd be on my own private island fishing all day. And then would I have learned what I'm supposed to learn by developing Staticom from the spirit community? No, I probably wouldn't. And we don't believe, can mess with that.
Right.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have to be interested in law or cold cases. You don't have to be a paranormal investigator. You don't even have to have a loved one you want to make contact with. If you
No.
are a brooding philosopher and you want to talk life, This is also useful for that.
You are absolutely right. And I actually have a philosophy degree. And so when we were pulling all this stuff apart, going, okay, what do we think's happening here? And we brought on a philosophy called analytic idealism. And it basically says that the ontological primitive of life is consciousness. It is there before, it is in the life you're living, and it returns back. And it avoids so many complications of, like, scientists suffers from the hard problem of consciousness. They believe that there's a 3D world out there, it's separate from us, and that rocks, trees, water do not have consciousness, but the human body does. Okay, well, rocks, trees, water are made up of elements, ions, all sorts of things. Guess what the human body's made up? The same thing. Yeah. So how does the human body have it, but rocks, trees, water doesn't? So that's the hard problem of consciousness. And science can't tell you what something is. What science does is it predicts future behaviors. Philosophy tries to tell you what something is. So science will never tell you what something is, and science can't measure consciousness. Science can't measure the depth of my love or the unbelievable taste of chocolate. They are unmeasurable.
You're stuck on hypothesis.
Right. They are unmeasurable, and consciousness falls in that same realm. But the nice thing about Staticom is it creates PPOs, or permanent paranormal objects, meaning that science can take a look at this now. These voices are repeatable 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. If we turn it on, they are there. They will answer our questions. This is something science can truly take a look at and study.
Wow. Well, that was perfectly said. And I think we're rounded up here to an hour.
We're about an hour, but oh God, I could talk all day about
this. I know,
this.
right? Well, we'll definitely have Tony back.
Yes.
And I'm so glad that we did it today, because it's National Paranormal Day today.
It is.
So I think it's a great day to have this episode. And
perfect timings. So I just want to say thank you. I know we're out of time, but I really appreciate you having me on, and know I will come back anytime you ask.
Yeah. So Tony, if there's any like platforms like your YouTube or your Facebook or anything that you want our audience to try to find you.
Absolutely. Website is entityvoices.com. YouTube, just look up Staticom. There's also Entity Voices Paranormal Investigations. We have 2 YouTubes. You can find us on Facebook under Tony Rathman, under Staticom. I think I have about 6 different Facebooks, all talking about similar stuff. If you want to see us in person, we will be in, Halifax, Canada, November, but we will be at Phenomicon giving an 1.5-hour presentation and demonstration in Vernal, Utah, between Skinwalker Ranch and Blind Frog Ranch. So
sweet. Cool. Hell yeah. Those are 2 crazy ass places. That's really awesome. Yeah, I bet you can catch some shit on your machine at Skidwalker Ranch. Holy crap.
Yeah, that is a just blow up place that I want to hit.
You're like, oh fuck.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, hey, why don't you stick with me for 2 more minutes?
All right.
Can you say Tony? Did you just say Rathman? Yep. So you know who I am. Can I know who you are? Yes, sir. Thank you. Who am I speaking to?
Marcello, can you see us?
Yes.
Thank you. Marcello, you started this method. It's working. Can you please try to communicate with us?
How do you hear me speak?